Alright, what is going on YouTube? And today we got a different style of video. Rather than doing the OG, like golden era, like vlog style workout video, and also, instead of doing the like talking to the camera, face to face commentary, or basically like, what did you even call that? Just like informational video, I just decided to record my sets and then come back and voice it over. And the reason for doing that is because I was on a time crunch today. I had an appointment to make and I didn't have time. Well, at first I tried to talk in between sets, and what that looked like in practice was I did the sets, didn't even get time to catch my breath, just started like rifling off to the camera, and then because I was rifling off to the camera, I was out of breath going into my set, so it turned into cardio very quickly. And during these sets right here, I was actually trying to make this work. And I start with, I warm up with a plate and then do stagger stance squats for 2. 1 each side, like with each knee forward. And I do that to work explosiveness through unilateral movements. And that's good for balance. It's good for general explosiveness because when you're sprinting and running, or going uphill, you are often not even in a, perfect feet side by side, shoulder width apart stance. You don't explode out of that often. Your feet are staggered. One foot is a little more forward than the other. So that's what I'm working on here. I am trying to, and I also need to get like a cameraman or something, or camera woman, because my gym area is just not wide enough to prop the camera up perfectly. I need somebody to like hold the angles down for me, because I like try to prop it up and then there's some pieces out of the camera, which is unfortunate. But like I was saying, I train unilateral, and you can't even see that my feet are stagger stance in those last 2 clips because of how narrow my workout space is. But anyway, I do it because it trains that explosiveness and balance, and it's just good for you to work that unilateral movement pattern because it fights against dementia in the sense that it requires more of your brain to keep good form, keep that bar balanced while your legs are not in fact balanced. They are split apart. But I'm working in the 3 rep range for my normal stance squats. I go up to 185, I think. No, I go straight up to 225, then 275, and I am going slow on the way down and trying to explode up as fast as possible. And I'm only doing these for sets of 3. I'm going to go ahead and let myself explain right here. Alright, so now we got 315 on the bar. Like I said, we're only doing sets of 3 at tops because, hold on, my legs, you can see the comparison between like my arm up there and my legs. I know this is not like the most ideal setup right here, but my legs are big enough, and I don't even want humongous gams. I would like them to be defined, but if they're not, that's totally okay. I would like them to be defined, but I don't really need them to be like humongous, because like I've said in previous videos, if your quads get too big, they can crowd your testicles, and that heats them up and lowers your sperm motility, which I'm pretty sure is not optimal. But I don't even aesthetically want legs that are too big and girthy, but I would love my legs to be explosive, hence the really low reps and really hasty, urgent tempo on the way up. So we're trying to build explosiveness so you can jump higher, run faster, and when you train low reps explosively, this will carry over to when I'm competing in powerlifting. So I couldn't have said it better now myself than I said right there in the video, and that's about all I was able to squeak out coherently when I was trying to go back and forth in between sets. But another big reason why I'm training heavy on the cut. When you train heavy, that is the best way to keep muscle while you're, or at least to train intensely. And it's easier to train intensely for single reps than many reps, because when you're cutting, if you're trying to train intensely in a high rep range, your glycogen stores are going to burn out because you're cutting way faster than in those low rep, heavier weight sets. I found that to be the case every single time I've cut. I used to work exclusively in the 10 to 15 rep range, and I would bulk that way and I would cut that way. And when I would cut, I could never do as many reps as I could when I was bulked up. And so I did drop muscle every time I cut far enough. But then I got this, I don't want to call it ego lifting, I want to call it a fiery passion for throwing heavy weight around. I got that, and I did it while I was cutting. And I kept a lot of muscle, and I think I looked the most insane I've ever looked. And I'm going for even crazier now, and we'll see if I can replicate that. But here's the bottom line when you are trying to maintain strength while cutting, especially, and you're trying to maintain size by training strength while you're cutting. There's some things you're going to want to remember. One caveat that's very important for you to remember is you're going to want to prioritize the first thing that you care about that gets weak quickly when you cut. So for me, my presses, more specifically my chest presses, drop right away, even right when my intention becomes not stuffing my face. It's not even like when I'm deep into the cut, my bench falls off the face of the earth. It's when I let myself breathe and put down the fork, instantly my bench gets weaker. Also, right here, we're going to get back to what I'm doing in a second, but this is important too. This is an isometric 90-degree bench hold, and then I do a 10-second pause. Both of them are 10 seconds. Both pauses are 10 seconds. But I pause on the bottom of the hatch as well. And I'll get to why I did that in a second. But back to what I was saying, you're going to want to prioritize the spot that diminishes the most for you, especially if you care about it. So, like, let's say your squat is the first thing to go and your legs get a lot smaller when you're cutting, but you don't really care how big your legs are, then in that case, it doesn't matter quite as much. But if there's a part you care about that gets smaller and weaker, prioritize that more. And so how I have constructed my training routine is I am doing 3 full body workouts a week, and the spots that need the most work get the most frequency. They get the most frequency, not necessarily the most volume. As you can see here, I'm only doing like 3 accumulative working sets. 2 full sets of 235 for 5. One's a pause rep, one's a touch and go rep out. And then I do the isometric hold and a 255 incline pause rep. So those are like 2 halves that make kind of a whole, in my opinion. So that's like 3 working sets total worth of incline pressing, because my chest is the highest priority because it diminishes right away when I'm cutting. But I started with squatting because I only squat once a week. And I only squat or deadlift once a week, so I'm alternating which week I'm doing those. So one week I'll squat, the next week I'll deadlift, and I just flip back and forth the whole time. And that's because I'm training heavy, and when you're training really heavy on squat and deadlift, your spine, I should say, accumulates these microfractures. And if you're squatting or deadlifting heavy, because the load on the back is extremely heavy, you are not giving your back enough time to recover from these microfractures. And they're both big leg workouts. Like, let's be honest, deadlift also is a pretty good lower body workout. So I'm rotating every other week for those. And one of the days, usually it's my second out of the 3 full body workouts I do that heavy squat. And then on the first and last day, I'm doing things like weighted step-ups or lunges or hamstring single leg RDLs with like a kettlebell or dumbbell or sprinting up a hill. And then for glutes, I do either kettlebell swings or like a couple, I hate them, but a couple hip thrusts. And that's what I do for my legs. So I kind of undulate the things that aren't as important to me. I really need to hit chest with a lot of frequency, and I'm trying not to overload the volume, and I'm not trying to go too many super heavy sets, because when you're cutting, you don't have that fat padding on your joints anymore, and your muscles are tired, so there's a little more torque on your ligaments. So injury risk is higher when you're cutting and lifting heavy. That's why this is the hardest part of lifting, and it's what requires the most presence and some expertise to maintain muscle and lose fat at the same time, because the real name of the game is knowing your body's boundaries and when it's time to stop lifting heavy and time to step on the gas and really thrust some heavy weight. Because, like I said, you don't want to tear something. That is priority number one. But in order to maintain that muscle, you're going to have to lift heavy. So what you do is you just spread out the days you're lifting heavy and making the sets not as many. I hope that sounded right. That sounded kind of Dr. Seussy in my head. Why did I do the isolation hold on the bench press? I don't recommend doing the isolation holds on days that you are doing normal sets. I want that to be very clear, but I got this idea from Eric Bugenhagen. And basically, the isometric lifts, when you're stopping like halfway through the rep and just holding, that is to strengthen your tendons. And the reason to strengthen your tendons is because when you're lifting this heavy a couple times a week, your tendons need some strengthening too. And that's what isometrics and slow eccentrics, so just lowering the weight slowly down, that's what that does. I did an isometric hold for rows on Tuesday. And that was the day that back got my priority, for the most part. I started with back, is what I'm trying to say. And for one of my sets, I just held it right there. But I would recommend, if you're going to do isometric holds, make them their own day. Don't do working sets, because they're really different for a lot of people, and they can wear out the muscle pretty quickly. I like you to think of it as doing a plank and then going and getting under a bench and trying to max out. Because the isometric hold, it does exhaust the muscles and the tendons a little bit. So I don't recommend doing them at the same time. Don't do them like I did. I just did it because I knew I wasn't going to get another chance to bench for the rest of this week. My last day, I'm going to do dips and shoulder press instead of doing a bench press movement. So yeah, 3, maybe 4, sometimes 2, just depending on how much food you've had, how much sleep you've gotten, how much time you have to prioritize. But about 3 full body workouts a week, where you are giving the things that need more attention, more focus during those workouts, and the things that you're doing pretty good on and don't care about as much, like just 1 to 2, 3 tops sets per set, which is what I do here. Like back, I just superset some face pulls and pullovers for 2 sets. I only do 2 superset sets of back, and that's the workout. Then you take a day off in between to stretch and or completely rest, or do cardio, which is equally, well, actually it's more important than all this lifting. But like I say all the time, cardio is a little harder to get in than lifting. But anyway, that's all the footage I have, so I'm going to wrap this up right here. This workout ran me an hour and 15 minutes. Most of these full body workouts, though, only take me an hour. So that's only 3 hours of lifting a week. This one was a little longer because I had to make myself lunch while doing this, because I wouldn't have had time to eat afterwards. And I was recording the video. So it was a little bit more time in between sets. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys learned something. I love you guys. God bless y'all. Peace out. And I will see y'all next time.